Good morning and welcome to the Market Forecast. I'm John Hoagland. As always, thanks for trusting me with your time. As always, we're going to look at our markets here in context and through the lens of risk management. For all of you that joined me yesterday for the group coaching or the market therapy session yesterday, thanks for joining me and Dr. Menaker, of course. We hope that there was a lot that you were able to take away from those sessions. I really enjoy doing them, and I know the doctor really enjoys it as well. So some really good questions, and it's going to go up on YouTube probably today or tomorrow. So if you weren't able to join it, you weren't able to ask your own questions, but there were some really good questions, good answers for everyone. So as always, today is Thursday, February the 11th. It's 9 degrees out here. Still very, very cold. Trying to stay warm here in the house, and hopefully you're warm and safe. And markets are already treating you well this morning. Some pretty decent opportunities. As always, these are opportunity generating machines. As far as economic releases this morning, at 7:30, the weekly jobless claims numbers came out, and both of them were worse or higher than expected. Not good news. It seems like so far the markets seem to be digesting it. It's going to take some time for that to really sink in, I think. We're going to have an interesting trading day in the equities, perhaps in crude oil. Crude oil is kind of high on my watch list this morning. We'll be talking about that shortly. As the morning goes on here at 9:30, we also have the nat gas numbers due out. So still some new information coming out, some bill announcements and some of that kind of stuff, but probably not anything too impactful. Like I said, the jobless claims numbers have not been overly impactful in the equities. They're set to open higher, recovering that from that downside route. I've got something very interesting to show you in the S&P profile that you're going to find, I think, pretty interesting. Powell's comments yesterday is going to stay pretty dovish. He says the Fed needs to remain patiently accommodative, as he's not sure that the actual employment numbers have been presented as deep as they probably were because of the COVID virus. So they're going to stay pretty soft on Fed policy. As far as notable earnings this morning, already out this morning, Pepsi beating expectations, AstraZeneca kind of a mixed number there, and Kraft Heinz also beating expectations. After the close, Disney, Expedia, and HubSpot all due out. The president spoke to the Chinese president, Xi, about a few things on his mind yesterday and received some expected pushback from the president of China. That's going to be an interesting soap opera for us to watch. Crude prices digesting an increasingly tight supply. We had a surprise draw of 6.6 million barrels in crude oil. We had a 4.5, I think, increase in gasoline, but crude continues to seem to be tightening, and of course we all see that is showing in price. The VIX this morning down 21.81 last I checked, and the dollar index down also at 90.30 last I checked. Make sure you like, share, comment, question, feedback, and heckling are always welcome. Subscribe to our YouTube channel if you want notifications when we do go live. Always like to say good morning to everybody. MSS Capital, first one in the room this morning. You win the prize. Will, good morning, Brian. Althea, Richie, ice in Tennessee this morning. Wow, all the way in Tennessee. Yeah, it's got a little cold snap going here in the Midwest, and looks like out a little bit east here as well. Good morning, Felix. Good morning, Gino. Gino, I don't know if I've seen that name before. If this is your first trip here, welcome to the Market Forecast, and thanks for popping in and saying good morning. Althea lives in Florida, can't do cold and snow anymore. Boy, it seems the older I get, the less I'm liking it as well. Used to love, snowmobiling and skiing and all that stuff, but haven't had much opportunity to do that lately, so I'm thinking more and more like I would like to be living down there near you, Althea. Bill, good morning. Danielle, guten Tag. James, good morning. Rob, Brian Walters, all snow. I am ready for spring as well. Apparently, we're going to have a couple of about another 5 weeks of it, according to the groundhog. But I think when we get to the 1st of March, I kind of start to feel like, that we're on the upswing. So when it gets to zero, buy. Bulldozer, good morning. Clarence, Steve, Caesar, Troy, Cody, Negri, good morning. Mike Magianis, the chef, is in the house. Rod, Danny Ireland, Rational Investor. I don't know what the whole meows thing is. I don't know what that is. Rational Investor. Brian, maybe you can enlighten me on that. Angelina, good morning. Andre, Keith, good morning. Rick, my brother, good morning. Tim G. Yeah, that's right. I was a coach for my son's baseball teams and did a lot of announcing of their football games, and it was a lot of fun. He's 21 now. That's a while ago. You've been with me and with us for quite a while, Brian. We got a little bit of history there. John Doherty, JD, good morning. Magnum, Shane, Rick. I coached his games. I'm 8 years his senior. Tried my best to keep me out of trouble. Yeah, that was definitely a daunting task, Rick, and I appreciate it. Taurus Trader, good morning. Main Point, Glenn, Oleg, Esteban, Chris, Ashton, and Mike Magianes. Keep that cold weather coming. My position in natural gas is loving it. Well, good. I'm glad to hear that you're taking advantage of some of the opportunities that the cold does provide. Excellent. All right, so as always, we start with the daily and crude. Let's get into these charts and see what we see. I got to remind myself I've got something very interesting for you to see in the S&P. Markets are so visual. We see it over and over again. It's very difficult to anticipate on the fly, especially when the market was tanking the way it was yesterday, but it traded straight to a previous point of control, and we'll talk about that here shortly. So let's go ahead and dive into the crude oil daily chart here. Yesterday, we've been noticing that we've had a little bit of volume divergence here where price continues to move higher and volumes falling off. Yesterday, we changed that a little bit, of course, because the EIA, we added 7,300 in open interest yesterday. Now, that's an estimation, but that's a pretty good estimation. It's kind of telling us that while we have seemed to kind of ceased our momentum to the upside, there's possible more continuing activity, perhaps, in that direction. We watch volume, we watch open interest, and when they start to fall off, we start to think there may be a pullback. Yesterday, and the day before, or yesterday and the day before, actually, we kind of increased on volume, and yesterday's increase in open interest says this market may be a little healthier on the upside auction than is being presented here. I've got those whole moving averages above price now. We've crossed over, but they're still both heading higher, so I'm not convinced that we've put in a high here for the short time frame here. This market is high on my radar for opportunities today. Let's see what we just did here on the open. So we've really kind of overdone our shorts, I think, here to the downside in the short time frame. When settlement is up here, 58.68, and when we move price significantly away from settlement in the overnight session, there's not the major players that there are in the regular trading hour session. We start to think that they're getting a little bit too short. Obviously, before the open, they started to get that clue. We see the market moving back into range and in value and reconciling those overnight shorts. So I'm going to try and, while this market is on my radar, I've got to try and stay patient because right now there's very little change in the perception of value. There's some digestion going on. I'll be watching our overnight high and our overnight low. We had a very narrow overnight session that we just took out before the open here. I mean, we're talking, let's see here, 47. We're talking, a 35 tick overnight session. It was very, very narrow. So And we're looking for opportunities when the market gets outside of that, but unfortunately, we're back in value. So I'm going to try and stay patient because of that. Whenever we open in range and in value, I find that we will find better trade locations as the day goes on. So stay patient. Look for your opportunities at value high, value low, overnight low, and the session low from yesterday. It's going to be a tough day. I know that I've got it high on my radar, but the fact that we've opened in range and value has kind of knocked it down a bit, knocked it down a peg or two. So yesterday, we had some suspicion on the volume divergence here, higher prices, lower volume. And it's always challenging with the S&Ps because the S&Ps don't bring in huge volume on up moves. It just kind of grinds higher and grinds higher and grinds higher. We have our whole moving averages above price. We crossed over as of yesterday, and our weekly kickoff high was a really nice little area for us to look for an opportunity early in the session yesterday. It would almost seem like a news event or something that created this downside push. Whether it was or not, I think the market needed it. I think it was a nice little blow off. We had some longs liquidate, take some profits. They're now available to get back into the marketplace, taking selling power away from the market. We've got some new information this morning with the jobless claims numbers not necessarily coming out that good, and we're up against resistance that proved to be resistant yesterday. How many times are we going to be able to push up against this before we exhaust any sellers up here? Nobody knows. Let's see here. We only added 1,500 in open interest yesterday, which gives me the indication that we probably did see some longs take some profits here yesterday. The volume was, of course, much bigger. It was a bigger range, scarier day. Downside moves always bring that. I'm going to go to the 30-minute, and then I want to show you the profile, the market profile here on TS Trader. Let me get this straightened out here. This is aggravating. Okay. Here's that weekly kickoff high. We looked above it yesterday. When we opened yesterday, we left that opening range at the dead high of the session, and the route was on. It was about an hour and a half before we put in our low here, which I'm going to show you here. This is we call this a naked point of control. This is a point of control is in volume profile. It is the highest single price, the highest volume single price. It's a very comfortable level. A lot of traders execute there. They're comfortable executing. Buyers and sellers meet there relatively quickly. Look where the move to the downside went to. It went past our volume point of control here. When I show you this, and we see this all the time, the point of control here, it's kind of hard to see. Point of control is right here in TPO point of control. But again, here's the volume point of control that it went to the point of control, TPO point of control, which is where the market revisited the most during this session. It had not yet been revisited. It holds that spot there, and then the market comes down, checks it, turns around, and then heads back higher yesterday. I thought that you might find that to be very interesting. When we leave points of control unchecked, okay, and the market never comes back to them. When the market comes back in that direction, markets are very visual. Those are just visual levels that when traders look at, they bring price to. And it was this just put in the low yesterday, which would have been a very hard trade to take. But when we were looking for opportunities or we're actually short, these naked points of control can provide really decent areas to lighten up and then perhaps to look for something in the opposite direction. I wouldn't stand in front of that move that happened to the downside yesterday. And if you were looking at that point of control, it would have been a really good place to lighten up in your position. but you really had to have some intestinal fortitude, as Dad used to call it, to stand in front of something like that. So I never suggest standing in front of a directional market that is that vicious. But boy, it sure traded right to the point of control right there. So I thought that might be interested to see that. So what are we looking at today? Well, we are holding some overnight long. Settlement is here, 39.03 even. And we've got some overnight inventory to the long side up against a resistance level that was proven yesterday. Again, how many times are we going to be able to push up against this level before we may exhaust any sellers that might be up there? And these levels, these weekly kickoff levels, these inflection levels that I calculate during the weekend are levels that I think that we're going to be able to bring longer, stronger traders into the marketplace. We had some longs yesterday that we're looking for that to happen. On the open, they started to bail. They started to burn the fire to the downside here. Now we've got another opportunity up there. And remember, we do have some short time frame longs. If they don't get what they're looking for in continuation to the upside at some point, they're going to bail, similar to the way they did yesterday. Yesterday was a pretty extreme, and I think yesterday needed to happen whether there was a news event or not. It was just a good blow-off to kind of even out inventory. So if our inventory is a little bit more even, it's going to be another interesting day if we have the opportunity to see an execution at that weekly kickoff high. The NASDAQ is in a little bit of a different situation. Angelina likes that intestinal fortitude. Yes, there's lots of other words to use with that, but I figured that was probably the best one. Guts. You got to have guts. Here's the NASDAQ, again, in a little bit of a different situation. We had the blow-off yesterday, not necessarily near one more thing I wanted to say about the S&Ps. I apologize. We still have an overnight high as the high of the regular trading hour session. This will probably not stand for long. Keep that in mind. And we also have the same situation in the NASDAQ, I believe. Yesterday, higher volume, increase of 4,200 in open interest. Lots of contracts trading hands yesterday. The move off that low yesterday, I think, inspired some new longs to come into this market. Okay, so here's that all-time high in the NASDAQ. Again, this probably will not stand. I'm not seeing that we're looking up against any major inflection level in the NASDAQ. And the S&Ps, we are. The NASDAQ has been presenting as stronger. It's got a little bit more space above before I think we're going to really start to push longer-term traders to need to adjust inventory. What are we looking at in the daytime frame? Again, we've got some overnight longs here. If these longs don't see any continuation towards the highs from yesterday and towards this all-time high relatively early in the session today, they may start to kind of bail out of some of those longs, which would give us an opportunity to look for longs at better trade locations. So pay attention to that today. Watch the opening range trades. Because we're out of value, I think the opening range trade may be something that might be viable for us in our equities today. The NASDAQ opening range tends to be really big, and it tends to be a riskier trade. But boy, when it works really, really well. Taking a look here at the gold now. Yeah, my brother follow said, yeah, when you're trading, money is easy to make and easy to lose, but hard as hell to keep. Absolutely. I have some dad wisdoms that I add, and in the group coaching sessions, Rick, I've got a whole bunch of them. I'll share those with you soon here. So our island low remains. We're looking for a possible change in market state here. I mean, when you look at the bigger picture, off the highs here, it's been very systematic, lower highs, lower lows. We've put in a higher low now. We may be starting to create an opportunity for this market to build energy in a continuation or a new direction. So that island bottom here has provided a decent upside move. Yesterday we added 1700 on an overlapping to higher day and range. It seems as though, I mean, we're still kind of in short time frame control here because we are between weekly kickoff high and weekly kickoff low, and also inside this area of previous balance. Volume was a little bit better yesterday. That increase in open interest still indicating that the upside auction may well be the in a healthy state. I know we've kind of matched yesterday's low here. Opening range trade, JT, is something that I look at. Each market has a day session opening. In gold it's 7:20, in crude oil it's 8 o'clock, in the S&Ps it's 8:30. Treasuries, it's 7:20. Currencies, it's also 7:20. It's when the U.S. traders kind of enter into the marketplace. Looking at that first minute, you can sometimes catch them kind of tipping their hand. Like yesterday in the S&Ps, the opening range was the dead high of the regular trading hour session. That tells us right early that they may be in control, and they may be in control considerably and maybe even all day long. So the opening range yesterday, the opening range trades signaled a control of sellers in the S&Ps yesterday that provided a really good opportunity. Okay. All right. So gold, we're still kind of looking like this auction to the upside is still remaining healthy, volume and open interest wise. Here's the 30-minute chart. What are we looking at here? Well, we don't really have any big opportunities just yet here. We got 1866 is the weekly kickoff high. We're not anywhere near it. Where are we? We're at settlement. We don't have any overnight inventory with which to use or with which to lean on. We're in range and in value. Opening range is neither the high nor the low. This is telling us that the market has kind of found an area of balance. Now, my question is, here's our island bottom. We should be seeing some momentum to the upside off of a significant reverse signal like this, but we're not necessarily seeing it. We're just spending some time, I guess, digesting it, and so there's a little bit of cognitive dissonance here. I'm still looking at this market like a market that I want to buy weakness in because of that island low, as long as that island low remains. But it's not really giving me good opportunities or good levels at this time. I'll be watching the value low from yesterday. Looks like there may be a little bit of repair necessary in yesterday's profile. We've got the point of control way up here. We've got a low volume area here, and we're kind of between a high volume area and a high volume area. So be watching to see if we can find perhaps a decent opportunity near the value low from yesterday. Looks like we just kind of had a look down there, but I wasn't in the right seat with which to respond to that. Here we go as the euro. I wanted to just kind of, while we're looking at the metals, the silver is in a different situation. We have an island reversal top, but we're still holding structure to the upside. And I'm not necessarily thinking that this island reversal top is going to hold very long if we can continue to hold the longer time frame and the medium time frame structure, which seems to be accelerating to the upside. If we can keep that structure. All right, now let's go back to the euro. And so 120.90 was previous weekly kickoff low. Now it was a high. We're back through it. How is the auction process doing? Volume seems to be maintaining above that level. We added 2,000 contracts in open interest. That's estimated again yesterday. It seems as though the market is doing a pretty decent job in keeping this auction process moving higher. As long as we can hold above this 120.90 level, I believe that it will be supported there. If we get there, it's an opportunity for us. Yesterday's short, wide profile, it was a very narrow range. and relatively symmetrical in the profile. A lot of time spent here, no real direction. This is going to use up the market's ability to facilitate trade there. It says to me that there is a move away from this area coming. Now we got overnight inventory, maybe a little bit long just before the open. Settlement is here at 121.37. We're getting a nice pullback, which might be that opportunity we might have been looking for to look for a potential long here. Whenever we move back towards settlement on overnight inventory, we can kind of look at that as, okay, the overnight longs that brought us away from settlement might be out of those longs, taking selling power away from the market, and this might be a good opportunity for us to look for our continuation, our move to the upside. At the very least, we can limit our risk. What else do I have here for you? We did open with a gap. We closed the gap, so that kind of puts us in a if we're looking to buy weakness, we're looking at low of value to low of range from yesterday. We still left a gap down below here. If we get into that, then I'll back off and I'll look for opportunities, perhaps at overnight low. And if that doesn't hold, I'll be in trouble. All right, so take a look now at the 10-year. I'm getting a little bit long-winded, and I apologize. Here we go. So the dovish Fed tone yesterday, I think, was expected. There was a little bit of short covering, a little P-shaped profile here for yesterday in the regular trading hour session. Brought some volume and a slight decrease. A slight change in open interest. I think that change was a little bit of a decrease. So probably some short covering down there. It is kind of substantiated by the P shape of the profile yesterday. Are we looking for a possible test of the weekly kickoff high? I would relish that opportunity because I think it's going to be a good opportunity for us to look at an execution. As far as today is concerned, you can see our P-shaped profile indicating some short covering, a little bit of a drop in open interest, nothing tremendous. We've got settlement is basically the low of the low of the overnight session. Are we accumulating overnight longs here? Maybe, maybe not. It's kind of range bound, so we're seeing two-sided trade above yesterday's range and above yesterday's area of value. So this is really just kind of digesting here. I'm going to be kind of cautious here. I know the market is out of balance. We've been looking for opportunities to see this market out of balance. We've got 5 or 6 days down here in an area of balance. So the high of that area of balance could be supportive. And at the very least, again, it gives you the opportunity to limit your risk. All right. So there's a question here on the profiles. So what I do is I go to the add modules. And I go to the chart, and then I just drag it. And I'm going to drag it to here. And I'm going to go, let's see the Dow, YMH, select. And there it is. Okay, it's not necessarily open. I haven't set the times for this yet. But you can also see it in the chart type. Go to TPO, and you'll get your profiles. When you're looking to change your parameters on it, you go to Configure Chart Elements, click here. Then you can choose your time and everything as far as your TPO, open time, close time, the letters, and your value areas and all that stuff are here. All right, I'm going to get back to work here. As always, thanks for joining me. Hopefully you got some interesting and profitable ideas for the day. Looking forward to seeing everybody Dan will be back for the market recap at 3 o'clock today. It was a busy day yesterday. I'm looking forward to taking care of some business today. And then I'll just be back with you tomorrow morning. Tomorrow, Friday, already. These weeks just keep flying by. Before we know it, it'll be spring. I'll be looking forward to that. So take your deep breath. Sorry if I went a little bit long today. Again, I tend to yammer a little bit. Stay humble, grateful, and creative in your trading today. Get out there and profit. Trade well. I'll see you later. Have a great day.